Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
My great British friend, a geek for fun.
Indeed.
How's the king, now that the queen has passed? How's the king doing?
You know, we love him and the fish and chips, and Wales is a country, but also not a country, and Ted Lasso, Doctor Who, all that.
Oh. Is this just what we're gonna like, Steve? On a scale of 1 to 10, how pissed would you be if, like, when you miss an episode, I just throw on a really offensive Indian accent?
Dude, motherfucker! If you did that, I would download it and make it my ringtone. Don't threaten me with
Steve.
A good time.
Hello, this is Steve Baxi. How may I help you?
How may I direct your call?
Have you tried turning your computer on and back off again?
There's massive amounts of racism into 2023. That's my resolution. Is I'm just going to be so much more offensive.
I think everything went wrong when racism went out of fashion. You know, I think the world was a better place. Anyway.
Well, I mean, as Jared Leto once said, we lost our taste for slavery.
Still kills me with that movie, and Jared Leto has all the best fucking lines.
He really fucking does. It's insane.
A child can count to 10 on fingers. Anyway. Always jumping that one. Anyway. So today we're here to talk about, change it up a little bit. We're usually pretty negative and all doom and gloom on this show whenever we do a yearly review. And so Steve decided to change it up on us, and instead of talking about the year itself and all the bad and stuff, we decided to talk about things we liked, media we saw this year that we enjoyed. So really, there's no reason to watch this video. No one ever wants to hear you talk about things that are good or that you think are good.
It's true.
Unless that involves dunking on things in retaliation. So, enjoy that. As if I do this channel for the views. Anyway, so Steve, you said you had a billion things to talk about, that you were ready to go. So I guess it only makes sense for you to start us off.
Okay, yeah. So I've kind of gotten all over the map here. So there are books I read, there are comics, movies, TV shows. Not so much in music this year, but
I'm gonna spoil my list and say I have absolutely no books, not even comics, on this list because I've fallen off comics really hard and reading's difficult. So there you go.
Reading do be difficult, man. It's rough.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still have to sound out the words.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah, so just
movie
heads up on that.
No, you're good. Not so much music this year. I didn't really listen to a lot of music this year, which is kind of a shame. But so starting off pretty strong, pretty predictable. But I figured I'd get it out of the way now, so I could gush about it up front and then talk about maybe less known things as we go on. But top of the fucking order here, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, fucking slaps. I love that movie. I saw it in the limited release over Thanksgiving weekend when it came out. It was just so much fucking fun in theaters. And then it hit Netflix over Christmas Eve. and I watched it twice that weekend. And even now, I'm just like, I really want to fucking watch Glass Onion. I really don't know if I like Glass Onion or Knives Out better. Like, I have been debating this in my brain for like a month and a half. I genuinely don't know which is the better movie, but I love it so much. It's so funny. It's so interesting. It's so fucking well made. It's got so many like little Easter eggs and so many interesting ways you can connect the narrative to the set design and so many cool editing tricks. And it's the kind of movie that every time you watch it, there's so many little details that kind of compound and build you towards the ending. You can get lost in the layers of this fucking Glass Onion, I swear. It's so good.
So you want to know something funny?
You're about to tell me you didn't like it?
No, I heard you and the whole fucking internet talk about it so much that I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. But if I'm going to do it, I want to watch Knives Out first. So I go on Netflix, because I keep seeing Knives Out 2, Glass Onion on there, and I'm like, alright, well then clearly, if Netflix, produced the second one, bought the rights to it, and yada yada yada, clearly they're going to have the first one, so you can, now...
Oh god.
Like, and really, in full honesty, there's nothing more Netflix than that.
I was gonna say, like, would you be more surprised if they had it?
I mean, just the fact that they went through the trouble of producing the second one and didn't think maybe we should put the first one on the platform too, so people can watch them both. Like, it just, I don't know. It was a bit of a trip to me. So yeah, Netflix and Glass Onion and Knives Out in general. I'm gonna have to. I'll eventually, but it did go from that'd be fun to watch both of those too. Well, maybe one day.
The thing that's nice about it, and something that was sort of intentional from the get-go with these movies, is they are one-off detective stories. Ryan Johnson's talked about in interviews since the movie came out. The thing that I was most annoyed with is I hated the title. And he apparently also is really pissed off about the title because he didn't want to call it not Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. He wanted to just call it Glass Onion because the idea is that every movie is entirely standalone. So there's nothing in the sequel that even remotely, like even in the most remote sense of the word, there is nothing that connects one to the other. The main character, Benoit Blanc, gets his own introduction. He's who he is and what he does is all set up and paid off and introduced within the own movie. There is, if you told someone that Glass Onion came out first and Knives Out is the sequel, you could watch it in that order and it would still work because there is nothing about those two movies that is even remotely connected.
So it's kind of like a Indiana Jones Temple of Doom vibe.
Very, very much so.
Okay.
But so that's the nice part about it is that you can
a prequel, but like a sequel that's so disconnected from the first movie. It's just the same character kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's trying to be Agatha Christie. It's trying to be a kind of story where you can kind of just pick up any volume and start reading it. I mean, Reckless is sort of the same way. There's a lot of stuff that's been doing this lately, but Knives Out was kind of the thing that popularized it again. So now we're seeing it so much more. Like Will Trent just got a TV show and shit like that. So like you would never have seen that before Knives Out, I don't think. You never would have seen See How They Run without Knives Out either. So Glass Onion definitely has that going for it. And if nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, Kentucky Fried Southern Drawl Daniel Craig is the greatest thing that has ever been given to humanity. And I will die on that hill. This motherfucker is about to be more popular as Benoit Blanc than he ever was as James Bond, because holy fucking shit, man, I cannot get over this man saying bullshit like Halle Berry with that fucking southern accent. It's so good.
That's funny.
It's so funny.
That's really funny. Because, like, wasn't one of your complaints about the Craig Bond films like, this man just can't act?
For a little while, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they just kept giving him the same performance. Like over and over. Like I've never been big on Daniel Craig as an actor. I've never particularly liked most of his movies. Like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is okay. It's one of the weaker Finchers in my opinion. He's in like minor roles in other movies I like, but not enough to stand out. Layer Cake is fine. I don't think it's a particularly great Matthew Vaughn movie either. And he's good in Casino Royale, and he's got moments of good in Skyfall, but he's just so fucking stoic. It has no expressiveness in those movies at all. And then you watch him play Benoit Blanc in Knives Out and Glass Onion, and it's hilarious because if you remember, like back when Spectre was coming out, he did interviews that he had to like renege on later. He did one particular interview I love where he was like, "I would rather slit both of my wrists than do another James Bond." Like he literally said that on the press tour for his second to last James Bond movie, that he would rather slit his wrists, and people got really fucking pissed at him. Eon got really fucking pissed at him, and then he had to pretend like he never said it afterwards. But he hated doing those movies so fucking much. And then you watch him in Knives Out, and he's like, "Oh, this man is having the greatest time of his life. He's having so much fun, and it's so fun to watch." There's a scene in the first one where he's just like sitting in a car singing along to his headphones and his iPod, and it's just so funny. I love it. I love it so much.
The hype around it has certainly made me very curious. I kind of got like that with the first one, but I was like, maybe not. The way that you've been super hyped about the second one is, and you know, I like Johnson as an actor, as a director rather too. So
yeah, I really like him.
I'm definitely curious, but yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet. I just thought it was really funny, the most Netflix thing to Netflix.
Oh yeah, 100%. What's yours now that I've gushed about Glass again?
So I'm just like kind of scrolling through, looking at, you know, what the fuck came out this year. And I guess the thing that I'll put up pretty high on this list too is House of the Dragon. If we're talking like sequel things to things that didn't necessarily didn't like seem they were initially going to have a sequel kind of thing. It just, yeah, fucking House of the Dragon. It's, I don't know, man.
A fucking soap opera, man.
It is like, because I didn't like hate the last season of Game of Thrones like a lot of people did. I certainly agree that I think they were like rushing things, but the groundwork was laid. The writing was on the wall. These things were going to happen in the story. It's just they what normally would have taken 2 seasons took 1. I was not, you know, blown away or anything by a lot of the moves made in the final season of Game of Thrones. I thought it was, you know, certainly shocking, but well laid for what the characters and the whole show is about. So I was, and you know, generally I really like just the world building and like the rich depth of history that Martin brought to the Song of Ice and Fire books and just that world. And I've admitted this in the past, is I prefer every time someone tells me, "Oh, if you like the show, you got to read the books because they're like 10 times better." But then someone tells me a detail of the books that I'm just like, no, that sounds awful. Why the fuck would I want that? Because like my friend Bobby was really into him for a while. He's like, he was reading the books. I'm like, I really hope the spiders show up. I'm like, is that like a family or something? He goes, no, there's like spiders like the size of dogs. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Why? That's so like trite and like typical fantasy crap. And what do they? Yeah, they fucking show up in a room and Ned Stark kills it with a sword or some shit. You know, it's like, it's not interesting. So I really appreciated the like toned down fantasy elements of Game of Thrones, and to get House of the Dragon, which is certainly a higher degree of fantasy, but still like, you know, the high degree of fantasy there is that now the dragons are a little bit more widespread, but still clearly this is an empire in decline, you know? And like, I really, that's the shit to me. Because there's not really like, it's been a minute since I watched the series. We were only watching it, you know, as it came out. But there really isn't like anything. I guess there was the big fucking deer that was like white, or with the goldish horns. But there really wasn't any other like fantasy element to House of the Dragon. They're just fucking dragons. And that shit's so sick to me. It's just such like an interesting way to do a fantasy world where the fantasy elements are so in the background compared to the political machinations and shit of that show. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, that sort of like fantastical realism thing has been kind of been going off really, really big ever since Game of Thrones started, but like especially in the last 2 or 3 years, now that Game of Thrones is over and everyone kind of wants that. Like I haven't watched it yet just because I'm not a big Lord of the Rings person, but I've heard Power of the Ring is kind of similar in that it's got a lot of the high fantasy concepts that people really like about Tolkien, but it kind of brings it down to that more political Game of Thronesy level, which is interesting to hear. Because I never thought the political stuff was the interesting part of Lord of the Rings, honestly.
I mean, certainly. I don't know. It's weird because is Rings of Power like a prequel, or is that one?
It is, yeah.
Okay, because I was listening to a podcast that was saying like there's a lot of like Tolkien stuff that he never published because he was going to do either a third series of books or a third book that was set like as a greater distance between the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit, but just in the future. And it was going to be like about an world in decline and stuff. And there's elements of that in the original series, certainly, but I don't know. I've never been the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. I just, it's one of those things. Kevin Smith fucking dunking on Lord of the Rings and Clerks 2 kind of perfectly summarized everything that I didn't know I felt about that franchise. And I realized that was 2006. It was a long time ago now. I should probably give it maybe more of a fair shake. But in my defense, no.
I do need to go through and watch it at some point. My friend's been watching it. It is like genuinely really good. He's not really like a TV show guy, so maybe that means it's so good it won him over, or maybe it means he just doesn't have taste because he doesn't watch TV. But it's one or the other, and I'm interested to find out. But no, House of the Dragon, I'm glad you ended up picking that. Not because it was going to be on my list, but in just part because, like, that show is so fucking batshit, man. Mm-hmm. Like, just every other episode, like, it feels like I'm starting with square one, figuring out what's going on, and it's so much fun to kind of have that experience again. I remember you and I were talking a little bit, like, after each episode when the season first started, and you got to the one where Daemon gets the letter from his brother. He's like, "Don't worry, brother. We're sending our armies." And he's like, "No, fuck that. I'd rather die." And then just one-man army storms everybody. I'm like, I don't understand what the fuck is happening. I don't know when Daemon became John Wick, but I'm here for it.
I mean, it's just so fucking badass. Like, this is the guy that should have been king, right? Like,
right.
You look at Daemon compared to his brother, and like he's such a fucking wet blanket of a king compared to like the just cutthroat bastard that Daemon was. Like, you look at Daemon and you get like, these were the Targaryens, man. Like, not that he's the greatest warrior ever, because episode 1 he gets his ass kicked, right?
Yeah.
Like he's overconfident and he gets his ass handed to him by someone with actual battlefield experience. But then he goes and he gets that experience, man, and it's like, that dude forged in like fire. Shit goes wrong for him. But like, there's still that just, I don't know, there's that very like human element of this dude does not think his brother is fit to be king.
Yeah.
He is also like still loves him as a brother and does not want to like depose him from the throne. And he lets like he takes that role and everything bad that comes with it in his life for the rest of his brother's entire life, which is like another 30 plus years after their initial falling out. It's like at least 20 years. Because of all the time skips the show does. It's fucking crazy.
And just like Daemon in particular's like weird sort of obsession with certain kinds of just customs where like he'll poke the bear, but he'll poke the bear really specifically, like stealing the dragon egg so he can have it underneath his kid because you're supposed to have that. And he's just like, "Come on, try and stop me. I'm doing this. This is my thing. This is what we're supposed to do. What you got? What you got?" Like, it's great. It's just he's so taunting, but I love it so much.
And Matt Smith just played the role so
fuck, man. Matt Smith is by far, I think, the best actor on the show. Like, it's not even close.
I mean, I would agree with you if not for the fact that we lost the original actress to play oh fuck, what's her name? All these fucking made up names. The main female lead. Like the fact that she switches actresses at I want to say the halfway point of the season because they do such a massive time skip. And like I get it, but at the same time, the new actress got so outdone by the younger actress. It's not even funny.
Yeah, part of me is like, it takes some guts to be like, recast your entire show. But on the other hand, it's like, they're just not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought everyone else was a reasonable step up. I didn't think anyone else was as, like, much of a oof as the main actress. It's just the fact that you see her for the longest amount of time, you know? That was the part that hurt.
There was her, but I also feel like the younger Allison Hightower is better too, honestly.
I liked the upgrade on that one. I thought the newer actress for her, I thought, did a better job. Or at least a more... like, it was a more believable progression.
I love her entrance when like they do the big dinner thing and she shows up with the green dress and that one guy is like, what color do these guys wear when they're about to declare war? Green. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
That's pretty fucking hype.
I think the thing is, I would probably be a little less harsh on the new actress if not for the fact that that like it's not only the actor changes, but like the character's like demeanor and determination changes drastically at that point in the series too. And I'm not sure how much of that is purely the writing and how much of it is the acting. Because I mean,
she definitely kind of.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say she definitely like loses a bit of her spunk as she gets older, which I think is part of the writing. Is that she is kind of like, but the way the second half of the season starts, it feels like she's kind of like given up, and then she gets the fire lit back under her by the end, which is nice. But you're right, there is something kind of missing in the sort of curiosity and passion the younger actress had.
Well, it was that, and it was just the fact that like, you know, she gets named heir to the Empire, and like, she does want it, you know, when she's having that conversation with the knight who she's trying to make basically her bedfellow, right? She's like, no, I don't want to go off and get married with you. I want to be queen of this realms. You know, this is the life I want, but that doesn't mean you and I can't still fuck. Like there was like a real like, you know, devilish kind of attitude to that. Again, there's that very like Targaryen, not just Targaryen specific to the vibes that Game of Thrones gave off, but like that very charismatic yet like scary kind of leader in a situation, you know? There's just that, it's a certain aspect of a character that does that. It's hard to describe.
Were the Targaryens your favorite house in the original show?
I mean, for what we saw of them, yes. I mean, like, Daenerys was my favorite character in the original show, and just everything that, like, you find out about them is just fucking fascinating as shit. Like, oh yeah, they're not even from here. They're from, like, basically ancient Rome, but if ancient Rome had magic and dragons, and by the way, it just collapsed in like, a fucking volcano. What? Dope. Like, I like to imagine that the Targaryens are essentially like the trailer trash of like a much higher and advanced society, so they just like kind of came over and like started taking over shit. It's like they're not necessarily that they're the best leaders, it's just they're so much above the other people they're around that it's just not even fair.
It's the Booster Gold principle.
Yeah, they played with cheat codes, right? They're basically time travelers. Which that's there's funny. You know, again, there is precedent for this stuff in history. You know, like fucking Columbus and the Aztecs, right? Or not the Aztecs, the Mayans it would have been. Or no. Columbus and the natives. Because Columbus comes over and Columbus knows like star charting and all this stuff. And he tells the natives that he serves a single god and that if the natives do not supply him with food, then his god will make the sun disappear and it will never come back. Because he knew there was going to be an eclipse, like, in a day or two. And when the fucking eclipse happens, oh shit, we better listen to this guy. Like, it's just not even fair, like, the level of advancement that the Targaryens come over with, just, conceptually, and then, like, literally displayed with dragons. And then just to see that shit, like, act out in real time, but they still kind of fuck it up a little bit because of just hubris, is just, I don't know, it's interesting, fascinating character writing. That's the one thing they inherited just tremendously from Game of Thrones is you have Game of Thrones, you have a character like Jaime Lannister, who you're introduced to in episode 1, pushing a child out of a window, and you think, well, fuck this guy. And then, a season and a half later, you're like, man, I feel so bad for Jaime. He just wants to get home and fuck his sister, but they cut off his hand.
No, dude, I've had this argument with people before. The scene in the bathhouse in season 2 after he gets his hand cut off, and he's admitting why he killed the Mad King and why he's the Oathbreaker, but really he kept his oath because he kept it to the crowd. That is one of the greatest scenes in television history. I fucking adore it.
It's so fucking good. It's so, like, complex and shit, right?
It's so good! Like, after that moment, I'm like, oh, Jaime's the best in this whole fucking show, man.
Yeah, no, it's such, like, an interesting, character drama. And it's like, people are fucking complicated. Someone can be, an attempted child murderer and also have nearly basically saved the world, right? Like, It's just fucking weird as shit. I love that show. It's not the crybaby liberal politics that everyone fucking wants. Okay, this has nothing to do with anything. Oh, maybe a little bit, because Fire Country is like a show that I'm not watching, but it is on the air. It's about it's a drama about prisoners who are volunteer firefighters to reduce their sentences, which is a real thing. And I'm sitting there listening to a story about it today on the radio, and it's all about how, like, advocate groups are mad, or not mad, but are, like, imploring shows and television in Hollywood to not glamorize the fighting of fires, because if we're fighting fires, then, we've already failed, and are encouraging Hollywood to do stuff more to let, like, people know about preventative efforts and measures, and, like, that wouldn't be a show. That would be Smokey the Bear. Like, that's not a television show. What the fuck are you talking?
That's pretty fucking dumb. That's really fucking dumb. Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, that's what you get when you think media should be considered in like black and white moral terms instead of like complicated, messy human terms.
Yeah, I know, and I'm like, nothing to the show itself. They play a clip from it of, like, a guy getting fined because he's got too much, like, loose wood branches and stuff on his property, and it's, like, a fire risk. And he's, like, fighting the ticket or whatever, and I'm like, okay, there's your preventative measure. Isn't this compelling drama?
It's one of those things, too, though, where, like, you can see the people having this argument or holding this opinion just fighting each other over what the right thing to do is. Because, like, on the one hand, you could be like, get the liberal activist youth groups make a show about Smokey the Bear. On the other hand, you'd be like, no, this show doesn't go far enough to talk about how the prisoners are exploited. And you really can't win anyone over. It's like either one or the other, and it still doesn't work. Just go back to fucking Prison Break TV shows.
Did I ever tell you my premise for my prison sitcom?
I've never heard this before. I need to know.
Okay, me and a guy at work, we just spent like a day dreaming up like a sitcom that takes place in a prison. Because we were talking about how Orange is the New Black is like, it billed itself as like a black comedy, but it's just too like drama focused for my taste. Where I want to do just like straight up, no, this show is fucking hilarious and it takes place inside a prison. And one of the gags was going to be that a guy got put in prison and he's like, yes, when my brother got arrested, I made sure to tattoo the prison he was in's blueprints all across my body so that I could get arrested too and then break him out of jail. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. Where's your brother at? I got transferred to another prison. So all these blueprints are useless.
Oh my god, that's incredible. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we had a bunch more gangs and stuff, but like that was the one that was just the funniest fucking thing I could think of. Because that was a show.
I'd fucking watch it, man.
I remember that show. I remember that being advertised like crazy. I think it was like FX or something, and I'm just like, yeah, but like, what if they sent him to another prison? You know how much money you had to fucking spend on those tattoos?
How many years it would take to... Oh my god. That's incredible. I love it. I love it.
Favorite fucking thing ever. Anyway. We've talked
speaking
about Game
of
Thrones enough. You switch us off. Something else.
All right, I'll stay in the realm of TV shows while we're here. Speaking of prisons and prison breaks and complicated politics, have I told you about our Lord and Savior Andor?
You've talked about it a lot.
Andor, okay, so you and I have had this conversation several times about how much I hate modern Star Wars and like how much I hate this approach to quote unquote content where you're just like pumping out shit with references and it's all kind of meaningless because you all just want to watch the videos on YouTube about hiding Easter eggs and references and all that fucking bullshit. You know how much I hate Rise of Skywalker, and we did that Obi-Wan review and I couldn't talk anything but shit about Obi-Wan and Mando Season 3 and the Book of Boba Fett, or what it should really be called, the Index of Boba Fett, and the rest of it is just Mandalorian Season 3. But all of that aside, all of that bullshit aside, I decided like I would watch Andor just because I basically watched all the other Star Wars stuff, and I like Rogue One, I like Star Wars, I want it to be good, and the show is the dumbest premise you'd ever hear because it's a prequel to a prequel that no one asked for. Like, no one wanted the movie about the guys who got the Death Star plans because we've seen Star Wars. We don't fucking care. But then Rogue One turned out to kind of slap. But no one cared about the origin story to the guys that got the Death Star plans. And then they made the
every single character. What's his fucking name? The guy that like the rebel pilot that, or not the rebel pilot, the Empire pilot that broke off and leaked the plans and stuff. I hope he gets a TV show.
Bodhi or something like that. Yeah.
I hope Jyn Erso gets her own TV show. I hope fucking Forrest Whitaker's character gets a whole TV show.
He's in Clone Wars.
I know he's in Clone Wars, but I want him to have his own show. He's in Rebels too. He's badass in Rebels.
That mentality is the thing that like really drove me away from wanting to watch this show. But then I watched it. And I was shocked to discover that they made an actual TV show where there were multi-episode arcs that have satisfying beginning, middles, and ends, where each individual episode tells its own story and then compounds over the series of episodes to tell a more complex story. Like, it's absolutely unheard of. They made a fucking TV show, and it was fucking beautiful.
In the year of our Lord, 2022.
Yeah, man, it was a fucking streaming show that was actually a TV show. But Andor is great because the first 3 episodes are kind of the pilot. It starts kind of slow. Like, I didn't love the first episode. I was kind of on the second episode. But by the end of the 3rd episode, I'm like, okay, this is really fucking hype. Because the first 3 episodes are kind of getting you a picture of what Cassian Andor's life is like and what motivates him to leave the planet in the first place. And once you kind of have that initial setup, you have to introduce the other factions that the show is revolving around, because you've got Cassian, who is basically keeping his head down. He hates the Empire, but he also doesn't want to fucking fight them because it's worthless. You've got the characters in the Empire itself, some that are ideologically driven, and then some that are basically just opportunists that don't really care about any of it. And then you've got rebels who will kind of fit the same faction, where you've got the ideologically driven ones. You've got the ideologically driven ones who are opportunistic, who will shoot themselves in the foot if it helps their ideological goal. And then you've got like the mercenaries and just the people who are in it for whatever. And the show kind of moves around all of these characters and weaves this I kid you not. It weaves this incredibly nuanced and complex study of how exactly someone is able to resist fascism and whether or not there is like a way to do it either within the system or outside it and what the extremes of that is. Like the political dynamics of that show are so insanely mature for a Star Wars thing, but I don't mean that as a backhanded compliment because they're insanely mature for like anything I have ever seen. It's so well crafted in that way. It kind of blew my mind. And there are so many little episodes and segments throughout where like it just kind of gets at your heartstrings because you really understand where each of these characters is coming from, whether they're good people or bad people. And the move from sympathizing with bad people to seeing them as bad people is handled so well. The best thing about it is the way the 3 episodes arc works is you kind of like turn every episode over to a different director and writing team, and what they do is they end up basically telling their own sort of like. So the first 3 episodes is basically just the story of how does Cassian leave the planet and what circumstances kind of force him to not be able to come back. Next 3 episodes are he gets hired to work on this bank heist essentially for a group of rebels, and he meets an ideologically driven rebel who wants to write a manifesto about what it means to resist, and then he meets another guy who's basically just there because he's getting paid. And so you have that whole thing go off. And then when it's over, you have his opportunity to kind of break away and do his own thing. And so like he goes back home, and then immediately he finds himself kind of thrown back into this because he realizes he can't actually escape. And that 1 episode breather then segues into another 3 episode arc, which is him basically being arrested and him having to break out of prison. And it's so like just fun TV drama of like watching this guy go from like just trying to stay below the radar and live his life all the way up to starting to empathize with the idea that the rebellion is something that he actually needs and that the galaxy actually needs in a way that's way more complicated than I think Star Wars has ever presented it, because it's not just like good guys and bad guys. It's not just like the tyrants, the dark side is bad and the light side is good. It is very much a show of like, look, regardless of how much you feel like resisting the Empire makes you a target and you'll probably just die, isn't that better than what the circumstances you're kind of forced to live under? And it's so great. You get this scene where this character's entire funeral is a declaration of war against the Empire, even though it kind of means certain death. It's so emotionally engaging. And like even like the thing that people have kind of been like a meme, I feel like is proof that the people watching the show either aren't thinking about it enough, or the way we talk about TV shows is incompatible with how complex the show is. Because people on Twitter are like making fun of like, look at Mon Mothma. Everyone hates Mon Mothma. The whole show is just about how Mon Mothma is like the most useless person ever. And it's actually not. It's actually about how can a politician inside of a fascist government both, one, feel like they're helping people, actually help people, and what kinds of little compromises end up saving people's lives, even though it looks like you're selling your soul. Like what kinds of little things that everyone just kind of throws away as just opportunistic political liberal band-aids are actually helpful in the grand scheme of things, and how many sacrifices do you have to make as an ideologically driven person inside the government to both keep your position of power and use it to help people at the same time, and can you keep your soul while doing that because everyone else will fucking hate you for it? It's so good, man. Like it's legitimately a great TV show.
I'm glad. I plan to watch it eventually, but like I said, I'm on Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who right now. My favorite thing of 2022 is classic Doctor Who from the 1960s, and fuck you, it counts because I'm watching it now. If I haven't seen it, it's new to me.
Did you hear they're taking it off of BritBox?
Wait, what? For real?
They are. I saw an article about that the other day. I think it's all moved to Disney Plus.
I mean, if it does, good, then I can just cancel my BritBox, but we'll see. That's a little surprising, but whatever. It saves me a couple bucks because I've already got Disney Plus, so whatever. I'll just keep paying for it as I watch it now. If they tell me it's not available anymore, then I'll just pick up where I left off with Disney.
I'm sure you'll have a little bit of time before like the David Tennant stuff starts messing with how to get access to Doctor Who.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, but yeah, so actually that's going to kind of segue me into my other thing. One thing I really liked in 2022, kind of in spite of itself probably, was The Power of the Doctor, Jodie's final special.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I had such a mixed reaction to it because I think every conversation I've had about it, like, I just kind of become more aware of everything that was wrong with it and not good about it. But like even in the moment of watching it, I kind of was aware of that anyway. But I found myself in this very particular place. So I've described this on Geeky Gentleman so many times because it's just such an interesting emotional state to me that I find it so useful to talk about things. Have you ever seen the campaign ad that got Ronald Reagan reelected?
The atomic bomb one?
No, that's not Reagan. So it's this ad, and it's the most like, you know what it is? It's a Stan account video before those existed, because all it is pictures of and short little videos of Ronald Reagan, you know, smiling and waving and doing Ronald Reagan stuff. And it's just all set to I'm proud to be an American, right? Like that's the whole fucking ad, Steve. It's literally nothing of substance to this ad, right?
Like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. But goddamn, if it doesn't like kind of, you know, stir a legitimate emotional reaction of like, fuck yeah, a little bit. And this is for me, like a fucking lefty son of a bitch. Right? Like I fucking hate Ronald Reagan, and I'm not proud to be an American or any of that shit. But it, like, you know, you have a thing that on like an intellectual level you can't help but like disagree with and pick apart. But then there's like that initial emotional reaction to the thing that is being presented to you. And that's how I kind of felt about Power of the Doctor. I don't think it's like as drastic a dissonance between, you know, emotion and feeling. I don't think Power of the Doctor or mostly anything in the Jodie era was particularly great, but like or even like horrendously bad, but just, you know, it clearly lacking quality. So to see Power of the Doctor, I was like, all right, what are we gonna get here? But then they just start doing a lot of moments that are like undeniably cool and hype. Everything from like, oh, the Doctor's talking to their former selves, and you know, there's fucking Paul McGann showed up. Oh, that's so cool. And then like the Master is wearing around like a multi-Doctor outfit. That's fucking great. And just, oh, the Master had this whole evil plan to use up one of the Doctor's regenerations to make the Doctor regenerate into the Master. That's fucking so cool. And then you just get to the end of it, it's like all the former companions are together in like a support group. Oh, that's so cool. I just everything about it, I undeniably does not work as a whole and has so many problems narratively and is just, it's cheap tricks. I fully 100% agree and understand that, and I do not care because it worked. Damn it! And that's,
it's a fun episode. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's so like it's cheap. It is tits and a thumbnail cheap. But I don't care. It made me click, you know? Like, it worked in a way that you know, just... maybe part of it is just feeling, like, starved for Doctor Who that's, like, really good in modern, by the time that came around. I don't know. But it hit on a different level, I guess.
It's also... Because Doctor Who is not the kind of series that really has the ability, the will, or even the budget to kind of, like, go out of its way for Easter eggs and nostalgia. The idea that you'd get like non-modern classic Who stuff is something that the BBC just kind of hates in general.
Mhm.
So seeing more of that stuff in that episode is nice. And yeah, I think it's the most that Chibnall era Doctor Who ever felt like the dude was trying to swing for the fences, because everything else felt kind of moderately safe. And that I didn't love the episode. I had a lot of problems with the episode. But it was a sincere sort of like dumb fun event, which is really kind of all I want even from like mediocre Doctor Who. Like even the bad episodes in series that I don't think are particularly good, you've got those episodes that are just kind of like fun to watch, fun to turn on in the background, a holiday special kind of vibe to them. And maybe you shouldn't have that as your energy for a finale for a Doctor's era. But given like how much of a lull Jodie's era was, I feel like that this kind of sent her out on at least a modicum of a high note. I mean, there are other problems with the way it came out, but it was more entertaining than what I thought Chibnall was capable of.
It's weird because I do like Chibnall's stuff before he became showrunner. Like,
Yeah.
I like Torchwood. I thought it was, reasonably well done for the time. I like his episodes of Doctor Who. He wrote a lot of Doctor Who before he took over. Along with Stephen Moffat and Davies, kind of was the next logical choice in a lot of ways. But just, man, I don't know, like, way to fumble the ball, bro. So, I don't know, but I liked that episode. I mean, like, even the stuff that I know, because, like, we saw this with, like, She-Hulk twerking, right? Where they're clearly putting stuff in TVs and movies. They'll put in these scenes because they know for a fact it's going to like be shared and go viral and just be like the thing everyone talks about from the movie. And that was 100% what the Master dancing to Rasputin in front of the Daleks inside.
Oh my god.
It's 100% what it was. God damn if I didn't love every fucking second of it.
Oh my god. I still visibly cringe.
I fucking adored it. It was so good.
Oh my god. I can't with the fucking TikTok nonsense in that show. I liked She-Hulk. I want to throw it out there. When we were on the live stream, people were giving me shit in the comments for not liking Whatever, which I thought was a boring movie. But She-Hulk is fun. I thought She-Hulk was a good show.
Okay. Alright. Fucking, I couldn't help it. I, despite my better judgment, I liked a lot of the stuff that was done. It was cheap, but it was good. It was like spray can cheese.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So that was another one of the things this year that I enjoyed. Maybe in spite of myself. Maybe I enjoyed it like, alone in a dark room, but I enjoyed it, damn it.
I mean, alone in a dark room is can be quite enjoyable.
Yeah, have you got the fleshlight, baby?
Oh, good shit.
Let's do like two more.
Okay, all right.
I'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it because we're getting close to an hour, I think.
Yeah. No, I'll try and make these last two relatively quick because I think there's stuff I've talked about before. But undoubtedly, one of the best comic books I read all year. One Bad Day, The Riddler. Holy fucking shit! What a book, man.
Steve likes a Tom King comic. Weird.
I was reaching because I'm like I have to bring. What did Tom King write this year that I can talk about? Oh yeah, he wrote fucking The Riddler, which is probably like the best Riddler story ever.
You're teasing me now. Now I'm curious.
I don't know how you'll feel about it, but I'm intrigued because I know you like killing, and this is the whole pitch for One Bad Day is let's give everyone a Killing Joke story basically. So yeah, if you haven't read these, basically every One Bad Day is like a 64-page prestige one shot. And they're all getting collected in their own individual hardcovers, which is just kind of a nonsense release model, but whatever. The idea, I guess, is like if you like one, you don't buy them all, but whatever. But so the Riddler one is the one that kind of launched it, and they got announced a while back. It's Tom King and Ms. Jarrett and Clayton Cowles, the usual team, and then everyone from Mr. Freeze and Penguin and Two-Face and like the whole gallery is basically getting them. Ra's al Ghul. Every one of them has sucked ass except the Mr. Freeze one. The Mr. Freeze one is pretty fun. But the Two-Face one sucks ass. The Penguin one sucks ass. The Riddler one, though, the one that makes that one special is you get the sense that Tom King is the only one who understood what the fucking assignment was. Because the assignment was, what if Killing Joke, except not Joker and different Batman villain? Insert different Batman villain. And the only person who seems to have understood that is Tom King, who wrote a prestige-style literary Riddler story to match the kind of story that the Killing Joke was. And he gave the book the same sort of like back and forth present day flashback structure. It's a much darker story. It's one that doesn't necessarily kind of fit into canon, but you can kind of make it fit. It's got a lot of moral ambiguity, particularly with Batman, and it's got a take on the Riddler that is like really unsettling and uses a lot of tropes that basically are designed to kind of make the villain seem like sociopathically amazing, but applies them to the Riddler and Batman's relationship in a way that tells a really complicated story about the influence of violence, both on the Riddler's end of it and on Batman's end of it. And Tom King's Batman has been extremely human and emotionally complex for like 5 years. So like he's done the story of like what motivates a little boy to grow up and decide to be Batman and whether or not that's healthy and what does happiness look like for this dude. But he's never like gotten a chance to kind of flex his muscles in terms of like Batman is fucking scary. And this is maybe the first time he's ever written a story where like, oh, Batman's fucking scary. Batman is legitimately kind of mind, and I love it so much. The scenes where he like, oh dude, I can't. It's hard to describe scenes in a Tom King comic that rule, because it's sort of like the rhythm of the lines as you're reading them that make them rule. But I'll try and explain this one where like the Riddler's basically doing his thing and Batman's investigating as the setup of the story, and there's this one guy that Batman captures who's like an old school Riddler henchman. And so like he's like hung him upside down on the pier, and it's just like this one really long page of multiple panels, and the guy's hanging upside down, and you're reading this whole page panel for panel for panel, and he's like, I don't know where he is, man. I don't know where he is. Drown, don't let me fall. I tell you what I know. I don't know a lot, but and he just like goes on like that, like he's just panicking, he's panicking, and then at the end he's like, so you'll let me go? And then the next page flips, and Batman dunks him in the water, and it's just him saying, no.
Damn.
It's so fucking badass. I love it so much. It's probably also like the creepiest Mitch Gerads has ever drawn Batman. Like it's just all shadows and it's all darkness, and it's so fucking good. It's an incredible comic. I love it so much. It's like Riddler meets Dead Poets Society meets Killing Joke. Basically is the pitch, but it's legitimately great. It's up there as one of the best Riddler stories of the time, along with Tom King's two other Riddler stories, Killing Time and The War of Jokes and Riddles, which are also equally two of the best Riddler stories ever. So he's certainly making a name for himself as the Riddler guy, but I very much enjoyed it. It's super, super good. Comes out in hardcover this year. You should definitely read it.
Maybe eventually. Or just pick it for the show and make me read it. That'd be probably the better option there.
I think you'll dig it. I'll have to pick it one of these days.
I mean, it's not that I won't dig it, it's that finding the time to read is something I need someone to like. I need school. I need someone to like require it of me. is my problem now.
That's fair. I think part of the hesitation with it is the book is put together so well that if you kind of sit and read it or sit and watch it for the purpose of getting through it, I don't think you'd kind of have the same fun experience of it. Because I remember when it came out, I was super excited for it. So I went to the store and I bought it. And then when I got home to read it, I kind of like created a whole vibe for it. So like I had the horror movie background music going on. I had like a candle going. The lights were dim. I just kind of sat in my cozy spot and I read the book. And the way that he does setups on the ends of pages to give you reveals on page turns, like the timing of the book and the way the lines kind of bounce around and the way you get like that really satisfying moments with the big 1 or 2 page spreads, the sort of big meeting in the middle between Batman and Riddler, all of those like beats, they hit so well if you're reading the book at the pace it's designed to be read at. So I really feel like you'd benefit from like being in one of those moods where you're like, I really want to read your story. I've blocked out an hour and I'm just gonna read this one, as opposed to like I have to read this for the show, so I'm just gonna go on read comic books online and scroll through it. You know, I think there's a difference there that's worth
I'd probably
savoring.
try to read it on the DC app, but you know, whatever.
Same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, then I guess just eventually. Yeah, I'll put it on the when I get the time, which is getting less and less now. So, yeah. All right. One for me. I just had two, and I'm trying to remember what the second one is. So I guess I'll just go with the other one that I can remember right now. The Peacemaker show.
Hey, hell yeah! I forgot that was
Yeah.
That show is so good.
Fucking killed me, man.
Oh, it's so good.
Laughed my ass off at parts of that show.
Oh my god, I couldn't control myself when I first saw Eagly.
Eagly's the best fucking
dude. When fucking Vigilante to the jail cell to beat up all the old dudes, so good.
Yeah, no, that's fucking great. God damn, the running joke that just, like, it was the absolute epitome of just the 2020s, right? Or the early 2020s, late 2010s. Just like, all the fucking rumors and stuff. You know, Aquaman, he fucks fish. It's fucking gross. Where did you hear that? That doesn't sound true. Oh, yeah, and I guess Pepe the Frog 420 is just lying to me on Twitter for no fucking reason. Fucking kill me. It's just, he just says it with so much confidence every time.
John Cena's got incredible comedy time, man. It's unreal. Oh my god, that show was so good. I loved it. I loved every second.
Like, that shit has stuck with me for the longest time now. Because of just how great that like, it's just the perfect like attitude of what the mindset is in like the right wing conspiracy theory circle, that it's just perfect.
Well, and even just like the sort of deeper setup of like his dad, the Red Dragon, and the kinds of insecure nationalistic masculinity that breeds people like Peacemaker in the first place. Like that, there is like a sufficiently like deep look there at the kinds of shit that people get into and why they get into it, and it's just clouded in hysterical satire.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it is. Fucking, really, honestly, top tier shit.
Super good.
Loved it. You know, it came off the heels of the Suicide Squad, which was just fucking fantastic, and you got like. Yeah, all the great shit with like Weasel and that, and you know, it was weird because I remember watching the Suicide Squad and you get to the end, it's like, oh, they just set up Peacemaker to get his own spin-off movie and then find out it's a TV show. I'm like, fucking really? That guy, like the guy who ended up being the villain of the movie, you're gonna give him a show? I'm like, you know what? It fucking worked. It was like legitimately good, and again, it had some moral ambiguity to it at the end, which was really fascinating. It's like, no, we're trying to save your world because we've seen you making all the same mistakes that we did. And I'm like, and then he fucking like kills him anyway. I'm like, holy shit, this is interesting.
Fucking top tier theme song too.
Oh yeah, Oh, it's fucking great. Like, I know you have like more of a problem with James Gunn using pop music and stuff to like convey a very particular emotion that like the scene already does and stuff. And like on some level I agree with you. On another level I think James Gunn just really fucking likes music and just
He does.
really,
No, yeah.
really enjoys putting it in his movies.
Peacemaker is of the stuff he's done between the Guardians movies, the Guardians Christmas special, and Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. I think Peacemaker is by far his best because I think Peacemaker as a show like actually leaves room for the actors and the director to kind of interpret the scene, and the song is kind of like more icing on the cake, as opposed to the other stuff where it is literally just repeating the beat that you're watching on screen and it feels kind of lazy. But I love it in Peacemaker. That episode that ends with John Cena just playing the piano, man, that fucking hits. Which apparently is actually John Cena playing the piano. Apparently he can actually do that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I watched John Cena and Shaq arm wrestle the other day.
What? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Shaq won?
Shaq almost won, but then Cena fought him back, and then they like had to call a tie because they were about to break the glass table they were doing it on.
That's hype.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking cool. Yeah. Shaq's been doing like a whole press junket thing lately. He's just kind of fucking everywhere now that he's retired. It's interesting.
He's got a TV show coming out, doesn't he?
Shaq's got a TV show?
I thought he's like in all of these commercials. I thought he was like doing.
I don't know. I've not heard anything about Shaq doing a TV show. I don't think it sounds like a good idea. It's like acting or like reality.
I don't know if I can remember. I'll have to figure out if I can. I've been watching. I have cable now, so I'm pretty sure it was something he was doing, but I don't remember what it is.
Steve Baxley has cable.
It was that documentary series he did earlier last year about the history of the Lakers.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. Just fucking John Cena and Shaq. Anyway, you said you had another one?
I've got my last little one. I tried to like through all the different mediums. So like I did a comic, I did a TV show. I did. That's all I did, right? Yeah, that's all I did. Yeah. So the last one I've got is a novel. The widely considered greatest author, the greatest contemporary American author, Cormac McCarthy, released a new book this year. Earlier, just a couple months ago, really. But he hadn't written a book in like 10 years or something like that. So this is like his first one in a pretty sizable gap since he's been writing for like 40, 50 years straight. He did No Country for Old Men, obviously, Blood Meridian, The Road, like all of these like really influential Southern Gothic noir Western thrillers that are really ingrained in our culture. And No Country for Old Men, the movie, is like one of the greatest films of all time. So I was always kind of annoyed that I'd never read a lot of Cormac McCarthy. So when his new novel came out, I'm like, okay, I will to go through and read this. But it's called The Passenger, and it's set in the 80s, and it's basically about a deep sea diver whose dad helped create the atomic bomb. And it's just about how he deals with the guilt and the ramifications and the meaning of life in the context of both his dad creating the bomb and living through the aftermath in real time in a way that him and his sister never, or his dad and his sister never did. So like he has this whole trajectory where like he got really into physics and went to school for it, and so he understands the design and how the bomb works on like a deeply like scientific and philosophical level, to the point where like he understands like the problems with just how we use certain words to describe what's going on in an atom bomb explosion. He's got like this really meticulously researched perspective on it. He kind of travels around talking to his friends and his diving colleagues, and just people like all around that he knows. There's this one conversation with a trans woman that he has earlier on, and she just kind of gets a chance to give you like a cutaway where she just talks about her life and like what it was like to come home one day, having now presented as a woman, and getting that little moment of shock in your mother's eye when she doesn't recognize you, and feeling like, wow, I have actually changed. This is great. And then seeing their face completely change when they do see who you are, and they're just disappointed in you, and like how much that must hurt. And it's just this really profound novel about the consequences of our actions and emotional connections and loneliness. And it's just got banger after banger of really good one-liners that kind of just haunt you and stick with you, to the point where like I had to like dog ear a bunch of pages just so I could go through it. Like there's one line where he says, "Beauty has power to call forth a grief that is beyond the reach of other tragedies. The loss of a great beauty can bring an entire nation to its knees." There's one particular line he has about the atomic bomb, like just describing what the bomb is like. And I swear to you, I think it's probably like the greatest description someone has ever written about the atomic bomb. I'm pulling it up because I have a picture of it saved on my phone because it's just such a good fucking line. But the line is, "Those who survived would often remember these horrors with a certain aesthetic to them. In that mitochondrial phantom blooming in the dawn like an evil lotus, and in the melting of solids hitherto foreknown to do so, stood a truth that would silence poetry 1,000 years." So fucking good, man. Like it is legitimately like one of the most like emotionally harrowing books you will ever read about someone that is just profoundly haunted by and cannot make sense of the idea that we just blew up 2 entire cities and now you just kind of have to live with it. So good. So good.
Alrighty. I don't think this was the one I was initially going to talk about. I was kind of torn on this. But since we already did the Geeky Gentleman on it, I'll just give a quick mention to Prey, because that was really fucking good.
Love that fucking movie.
But I'll go ahead and talk about this one that was just right at the end of the year, really, literally. And that was Violent Night.
Yes!
Steve turned me on and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I watched it and oh my fucking god, what a great film.
Isn't it great?
I fucking adored that movie. It was insanely good. I want a sequel so bad where he fights Krampus. Right? I just want more of it. It's just so fucking balls to the wall crazy and unapologetically. It's just ridiculous. Like I hate to go straight to the final kill of the movie, right? But like when he's fighting, Mr. Scrooge, the villain, in like the little hut in the snow, and they're in front of like a fire pit chimney, and he's like, "Not if you still believe." And he touches his nose and gets sucked up the chimney and like pulls the guy with him, and the guy's like body gets like ripped in half from the force of being pulled up the chimney, and then he like throws the corpse down. Like they gave Santa a fucking Mortal Kombat fatality is what they just did there. It was so good.
The scene where like he drops his wedding ring and he like falls the floor and he finds it by a sledgehammer, and it reminds him of his like Viking Norse origins, and then like suddenly the body count of the movie doubles because he's just fucking wrecking people's shit in the shed with a sledgehammer. It's so fucking good.
It's so fucking great. I just absolutely, the fact that we got like Home Alone but R-rated for the first time like in film was amazing.
Oh my god. Yeah, I legit kind of jumped, like face fell on the staircase.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was rough. That was rough to watch.
Like, I can't believe they gave the little girl a kill count, but they did it.
Right? fucking Die Hard Santa Claus. It fucking great movie.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a fantastic idea for a film. Would watch again. Highly, highly enjoyed and anticipated and just loved every second of it. Fucking fantastic. Um, it's just such a balls to the wall, crazy ass concept that they knew exactly the movie they were making and they succeeded in every way that they intended to.
Oh
It
yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
fantastic to see.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Shove it straight up their assholes. No, we're trying to keep you on the nice list, right? Like,
oh my god.
there's just so many good moments, like the scene in the basement where he's fighting the guy and he tries to like jump over the pool table, but he's too big to do that, so he's gonna like roll over.
Oh my god. Yeah, man, there's just like all of these like little bits and there's just like fun little sight gags and like the actual like the fights and the bloody kills are all so much fun and so creative. Like the star in the dude's eye that he then plugs in the tree and electrocutes him.
Mm-hmm. It's fucking fantastic. I had a great time with that. That was super fun. I was the only one that liked it. Like Haley was like, "Yeah, it was just okay." It was very violent. I'm like, "That it's called Violent Night."
To be fair, I feel like it doesn't get particularly violent in like 45 minutes.
Still, I don't know. I like the dirty Santa Claus movies. You know, like I like Bad Santa and this, and there's a couple others like that. Where I really enjoy those when you kind of like. You know, the Santa Claus, the Christmas movies that are definitively not for children are very enjoyable to me.
I'm glad that I turned you onto it because I showed you the, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be so fucking. Glad you actually watching it.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. I had a great time with it. I told Haley not to watch anything, like trailers or anything for it before we went to go see it. Because I was sure that would lead to an even better experience, and she thought it was just okay in the end. I'm like, oh,
dang. Well,
fine,
the
I'll
important
be the
thing.
only one to like it.
I'm sure Leah will like it in a few years.
Yeah, you know, maybe 2 or 3.
You know, just having it around there, bring it to school.
Yep, yeah. So, I think that'll about do it. That just seems like a good place to wrap things up for this episode. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got about the good things from this year and not the war in Ukraine or anything insane like that.
I mean, I just like that I go from, you know, you talked about this really interesting book about the implications of the fucking atom bomb to a movie where Santa Claus killed people was pretty fucking good.
You know, art has many forms, and sometimes beauty is Santa Claus. You know, just sometimes.
Sometimes.
But yeah, no, it was fun. I feel overall it was a decent year for just like lots of diverse and interesting things coming out in fiction. Like I loved Glass Onion, obviously, but like it's not even my favorite movie of the year. There were just so many good ones.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good time. I liked a lot that came out this year. And then there was enough stuff that I was thinking of, I could maybe talk about that, but then I was like, I mean, I liked things about it, but I didn't love it. Like, I'm still disappointed that Super Pets didn't do Jumpa. Like, I'm like legitimately mad about that. The pig's a fine character, don't get me wrong, but like, Jumpa's like right there, man. And it's not even you can say like, oh well, you know, it'd be too exotic. You know, who would get rid of a kangaroo? It's exactly the kind of animal that would be at an animal shelter. Fucks.
I am a little bummed that Black Adam's, because I was kind of looking forward to that one.
Yeah, you disappointed by Black Adam?
I was disappointed by Black Adam, and then I was equally disappointed by the fact that they released it on HBO Max the same day they announced Cavill would not be back as Superman.
Oof.
I'm like, oh wow, the timing.
They really wanted to hammer that one in. Still so glad that movie bombed. Like, honestly, so glad, because
it's
goddamn, I could not have sat there through 3 hours of The Rock beats up Superman the movie.
Oh my, yeah, no, it was rough. I was hoping it would be a lot than it ended up being. That was genuinely a disappointing movie for me because to be honest, like most of the movies I saw this year, either really really surprised me or were things I was anticipating, and they lived up to the expectations. There was very few, if anything, where I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is not as good as I was hoping, except for maybe Black Adam. Like even fucking Doctor Strange, I could not have given less shits about Doctor Strange too. But that movie fucking ruled. I really really liked it.
People don't like Doctor Strange too. It's weird.
I can't fucking believe that. Like that movie is so much fun.
Yeah, no, people honestly hate it. Like, I just saw a meme earlier today about, like, Stephen Strange. I can't wait for my character to be explored and developed more in the sequel. Sam Raimi beating the shit out of him. I was like,
Oh my
that's
god.
not what happened, but that's obviously the perception. People have really turned on the MCU of the last year or two. It's kind of crazy.
I can't believe they're turning on the good ones though.
Yeah, no, it's weird, man. Like, I think what it is I think the fact that the pandemic happened right after like there was nothing big. There was no big movie after Endgame before the pandemic hit. And then like the next big Marvel release was going to be Black Widow, but that one kept getting pushed back. It was like over a year late by the time it happened. And I think that just the pandemic like killed the high. It just like served as that break from it, and everyone just turned on the MCU all in like one fell swoop. Like everyone keeps trying to tell me that it's because Endgame was like the highest point and nothing's like lived up to the hype anymore. I'm like, maybe, but also, y'all had like a break from it for longer. You didn't get your fix, and so you kind of like turned on it. I think.
Well, you didn't get your fix, and I think like telling example of like once you see where these are all going, it stops being satisfying because you know it's never going to go anywhere in a direction that feels unexpected or engaging or interesting. It's just going to deliver the same sort of like 5 or 6 things you've come to expect over and over and over again for 3 hours at a time. And like maybe by the time you got to Endgame, you were so high on the idea that you were getting it that you didn't stop to think. But then you got a little bit of a break, and then you just keep getting more of the same again, and suddenly you realize, oh, maybe tastes did actually change. Because like I don't think the MCU got worse. I don't think it's a case of like Phase 3 was perfect and Phase 4 is bad. Because you know me, I don't like most of these movies. I think it's more so that the Phase 4 is probably one of the better ones, but so many of the bad ones are the ones that we got used to, and when there's just a modicum of time between them, you're not used to the bad ones anymore, so you think that they've just like stumbled down a bad rabbit hole, when in reality they've just been doing what they've always been doing, and suddenly we're kind of seeing through the veil a bit, which is nice in some ways and bad in others. Like, I wish more people like Doctor Strange too. I wish more people liked Eternals. I can't believe the number of people that ended up liking Shang-Chi or Black Widow. So like, it's kind of give or take at this point. Like, I can't believe anyone thinks Black Widow is a good movie on any level, but here we are. But like, you know, it's always nice to go into a year where it feels like there's a lot of things to choose from that aren't just like 5 or 6 comic book movies. Even if they are sequels and franchises, because I don't mind that, but like there has to be a level of like, they did something different and they had no right to make a sequel to this that was good but ended up being good, and that's part of the fun. So like, Top Gun Maverick, man, Top Gun Maverick is a top 10 movie of the fuck. I watched it again over the Christmas break. That movie fucking rules. It's incredible. It's one of the best like blockbuster action movies of the modern era. It's unbelievable how good a fucking Top Gun sequel turned out to be. But that's just what you get when you like let people do weird, interesting, niche things that they aren't expecting, instead of trying to just repeat the formula.
This is true. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good way to leave it off. I need to think of something to review for next week. All right, right, let's do this. Let's review just the first episode of the new Netflix Sonic Prime show.
Oh, fun. Okay. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
It's like an hour long, which surprised me. And I kind of want to just talk about it. I'll probably watch a little bit more. I'm like 2 or 3 episodes in at this point, watching a little bit of it with Leah. She really liked the first episode. So I just kind of want to talk about that one.
Are they all an hour long?
No, just it's weird to use the word pilot in the Netflix name, but just the pilot is an hour long.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, that's pretty standard. It's just like double length regular episode kind of thing. But yeah, I just want to talk about the first episode of Sonic Prime, and maybe we'll get a little bit more into the other stuff, but yeah. Just seems like a fun topic, because it's doing a number of intriguing things. I want to talk Sonic, man.
Yeah, no, I'm down. It's definitely the year of Sonic, between Sonic Frontiers, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So
yeah. So we'll get into that. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher,
and I am not British,
and we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.